Hey, buddy, hit that subscribe. Just a sec for you, but it means the world to me. The phone rang at 3:52 a.m. That kind of ring hits different. Ain't nobody calling at that hour with good news. I stared at it for a second too long, heart already going sideways in my chest, before I picked it up. Hello? Static hissed. Then a woman's voice. Firm, professional, but sharp with urgency. Is this Richard Cole? Yeah, that's me. My name is Lila Grant. I'm a crisis counselor at North Bay Medical Center in Seattle. I'm calling about your daughter. My grip tightened so hard my knuckles burned. My daughter? Yes, sir. Her name is Emily Cole. She was admitted 2 days ago. She's asking for you. The room started tilting like the floor forgot how gravity works. I sat on the edge of my bed, so fast I nearly missed it. That's not possible, I said real flat. My daughter died 30 years ago. Silence stretched just long enough to mess with my head. Sir, she said softly, the woman here has ID. She has a crescent-shaped birthmark on her right shoulder. She says you used to call it her moon badge when she was little. My lungs forgot their job. Nobody knew that. Nobody. Not the cops. Not the news. Not the missing persons flyers. That was just our thing. Something I made up when Emily was 4, because she was scared of monsters under the bed. Where is she? I whispered. Psych unit. North Bay Medical, Seattle. I checked the clock. 3:54 a.m. A 6-hour drive if traffic didn't go full psycho. I'm coming, I said and hung up before she could say another word. Behind me, my wife, Sarah, was already sitting up. She'd learned that look on my face a long time ago. Who was that? She asked. They say they found Emily. Her face drained of color. We had scam calls before. Low-life grifters try to cash in on grief. But none of them ever got the secret stuff right. She knew about the birthmark. I said, the moon badge. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. I'm going with you, she said, already reaching for her hoodie. No, I said gently. Let me see first. If it's real, I'll call you. If it's not, I need you solid when I fall apart. She hated it, but she understood. The drive to Seattle felt unreal. Like I wasn't even my body, just floating through highway lights and bad memories. I kept the radio off. I didn't want music. Didn't want news. I wanted silence so the past could scream uninterrupted. Emily vanished when she was 16. October 9th, 1994. She told us she was staying at a friend's. Truth was she met an older guy, 23, work construction. They fought. He ditched her at a bus stop near Pioneer Square just before midnight. She never came home. For 2 years, we did everything, posters, TV, flyers, detectives we couldn't afford. Sarah stopped sleeping. I stopped living. In 1997, hikers found remains outside a rural logging site. Clothes matched. Jewelry matched. DNA was incomplete, but they said 75% probability. We buried an empty coffin. Told ourselves it was closure. We lied. North Bay Medical rose out of the morning fog like a concrete giant that didn't care about human pain. A social worker met me in the lobby, mid-30s, tired eyes, kind face. Mr. Cole, she said, shaking my hand. There's something you need to understand first. The woman upstairs has been living under another identity for decades. What name? Rachel Moore. She explained that 2 days ago, Rachel had seen an old missing person post shared online as part of a cold case campaign. The photo cracked something inside her. She broke down. Hard. She remembers fragments. Lila said as we walked. A blue house. Homemade pancake sundaes. A dad afraid of ladders, but who built a backyard fort anyway. My legs nearly buckled. That fort, I built it when Emily turned 10. I was terrified of heights. She stood under me laughing while I shook like an idiot on that ladder. She's terrified to see you, Lila said. Scared you'll blame her. Scared you won't want who she became. She's my kid, I said tightly. That's the whole list of rules. She opened the door. The woman inside stood when I entered. She wasn't 16 anymore. She was mid-40s, too skinny. Gray threading through dark hair. wearing hospital sweatpants and a borrowed t-shirt. But her eyes, same stormy gray, same stubborn fire. "Dad," she whispered. Every fantasy I'd ever had about this moment died instantly. No Hollywood reunion. No perfect words. I collapsed into her arms like my bones finally quit holding me up. "I don't remember everything," she said through shaking breaths. "But I remember you. The fort, the way you burned pancakes on purpose. So we'd laugh. I don't know if I can be Emily again." I pulled her tighter. "You don't gotta be the old you," I said. "You're here. That's enough." She told me pieces. Being stopped that night, a woman offering help, then years of broken memories and survival under a borrowed name. "I wasn't hiding," she said. "I was gone." And I believed her. Before I left, the doctor stopped me. "We need DNA confirmation, and police involvement, and counseling for years. You need to understand this is just the beginning." I called Sarah from the parking lot. She screamed, then cried, then was in the car before I finished talking. 2 weeks later, the DNA results came back. But before they could even tell us the truth, the police made a discovery about the body we buried 30 years ago, and it changed everything forever. The DNA truth in a grave that wasn't hers. The waiting nearly broke us. Those 2 weeks between the DNA test, and the results felt longer than the 30 years Emily had been gone. Every day, Sarah and I drove to Seattle. Every day, we sat in that same stiff visitor room, drinking terrible hospital coffee and pretending we weren't terrified out of our minds. Emily, she wanted to go back to being called that now, was getting stronger by the day. The Rachel identity was fading. Some mornings she'd wake up and know exactly who she was. Other mornings, she'd drift in panic and ask where she was like we just met all over again. Trauma don't run on a schedule. She started remembering more things. Not everything. Never in order, but enough to rip our hearts open piece by piece. A red kitchen table. A yellow raincoat I bought her in 2nd grade. The scar on her chin from jumping off the porch like she could fly. None of that stuff was online. None of it was public. No scam artist could have pulled that out of thin air. Still, that DNA test controlled everything. No matter what our hearts said, numbers on a lab screen were about to decide reality. I got the call on a Wednesday morning. "Mr. Cole, can you come in today? With your wife." My legs already knew the answer before my brain caught up. They didn't make us wait. The counselor, the hospital director, and a detective from Seattle PD were all sitting in the room. A small envelope lay on the table, like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "It's a confirmed match," the director said. 99.9%. Emily is your biological daughter." Sarah made a sound I've never heard before in my life. Half sob, half relief, half something holy. All three at once. I couldn't speak. I just nodded like my soul finally snapped back into my body after being gone for 3 decades. Then the detective cleared his throat. "There's something else. Something you both need to know." That's when the air changed. "They re-examined the remains you buried in 1997, he said. "New DNA extraction technology finally gave us a full profile." He slid a paper across the table. That body belonged to a girl named Hannah Pierce. She went missing from Oregon in 1996. Her family has been searching for her for nearly 30 years. Sarah grabbed my arm. She wasn't our daughter," she whispered. "No," the detective said quietly, "which means Emily was never dead." The weight of that hit me wrong. We cried over the wrong grave, mourned the wrong bones, built 30 years of grief on a horrible mistake. Somewhere out there, another family had been suffering the same way we had. Because of us, I felt sick. Emily took that news quietly. Too quietly. That night, she spiraled. Bad. Memories crashed in like wild animals. She locked herself in the bathroom, crying so hard the nurses had to call backup. Sarah held her afterward like she was 16 again, rocking her through shaking breaths that came out broken and scared. "I should have been dead," Emily whispered. "Everyone thought I was. The world moved on without me." "No," Sarah said fiercely. "The world was just waiting for you to come back." Police interviews started the next day. Emily sat across from detectives for hours at a time, trying to pull pieces out of a shattered mental filing cabinet. She described a woman with soft hands and a sweet voice who had offered her coffee that night. She described a moving house, maybe a van, maybe a basement that sometimes changed. Human trafficking doesn't look like crime shows. It looks normal. That's what makes it so evil. The detectives told us there had been a known trafficking ring operating in that area in the 90s. Many suspects were dead, disappeared, or already locked up. Some weren't. Emily was now their key, and that scared the hell out of me. 3 days later, we got another shock. The Pierce family called us. Hannah's father wanted to speak to me personally. I didn't want to take that call. I was scared of his anger. Deserved it, maybe, but I took it anyway. "You buried my daughter," he said quietly. "I didn't know," I said. "I swear to you I thought she was mine." Silence on the line. Then he said, "So did we." Two fathers bonded by the same nightmare, for two different girls. We cried together, like strangers who somehow understood each other better than anyone else on earth. Emily was released into outpatient care 3 weeks later. Not to our house. She wasn't ready for that much change, but into a small supervised apartment near the clinic. Sarah decorated it like Emily's favorite color still mattered. I built her a bookshelf. She laughed at how crooked it was. Our sons flew in to meet her. That part was brutal. They loved her instantly, and they also didn't know her at all. Blood ties are powerful, but time steals things you can never get back. That night, Emily broke down again. "I missed everything," she said. "Their weddings, the kids, your gray hair. You didn't miss love." I told her. "You're standing in it right now." The police called us one more time before the end of that month. They had identified one of the people from Emily's memories. A woman, still alive, still in Seattle. And she wanted to talk. The woman who approached Emily the night she vanished. The woman who started everything. The woman who may have destroyed dozens of lives. Was finally ready to speak. And she asked for Emily by name. The woman from the bus stop. Emily almost backed out. She was sitting on the edge of the couch in her apartment, knees bouncing nonstop, eyes locked on the floor. The detectives had called an hour earlier. The woman from the bus stop was ready to talk. Alive, still in Seattle, still breathing. And for the first time in 30 years, the ghost from Emily's last free night had a real name, Marla Kessler. "I don't want to see her," Emily whispered. What if she makes it worse? What if I remember too much? I knelt in front of her. "Kid!" The worst already happened. This might be the only way to take some of its power back. She nodded slowly, scared, but stronger than she believed. They met in a police interview room that felt colder than a freezer. One-way glass, a recorder on the table, a detective on each side. Then they brought Marla in. She was older now, late 60s, bent, hands trembling. Her eyes wouldn't meet Emily's at first. When she finally looked up, Emily flinched. "That's her," she whispered. Marla's voice cracked instantly. "You were crying. You were just a kid. I didn't think. I didn't know what they'd do to you." Emily stood up so fast her chair hit the floor. "You didn't know. You handed me over like a puppy." Marla broke. "They had my son," she sobbed. "I didn't choose this life. I fed them girls so they wouldn't feed on my child." The room went dead silent. Even the detectives froze. Marla confessed. The coffee, the ride, the first house, the men, the money, the rotation system that moved girls across cities like inventory. She named names. Some were already dead. Some were in prison for unrelated crimes. One was still active. Emily listened like stone. When Marla finished, Emily leaned forward and said something that made the entire room go cold. "You didn't save your son," she said quietly. "You just sold me instead." Marla collapsed into sobs. 2 weeks later, Marla's testimony led to a major federal arrest. A man with money, a legit business front, and a trail of missing girls behind him that stretched back to the early 90s. Emily became a federal witness. That meant protection, security, and a whole new layer of fear. I installed security cameras at her apartment myself. Because if people that evil had survived 30 years, they could survive a little revenge too. Emily's memories kept unlocking. Not in order. Not clean. Like shattered glass falling into place. She remembered escaping once, at 19, only to be dragged back after 2 days on the streets. She remembered another girl who didn't make it. She remembered learning to keep her voice small. It crushed Sarah. It almost crushed me too. But Emily, she didn't break. She sharpened. Then came the media. News vans. Cold case headlines. Miracle survivor found after 30 years. Emily refused interviews. I was exploited long enough, she said. They don't get my story for clicks. I was proud of her in a way that hurt. Then something happened that shook her deeper than the trafficking ever did. We visited Hannah Pierce's grave, her real grave. Emily knelt in the grass for a long time without saying a word. Then she whispered, I lived in her place. I don't know how to hold that. You honor her by living, Sarah told her. Emily cried like a little kid again that day. 3 days later, the FBI called. The case just got bigger. Much bigger. And Emily's name was now bleeding into a national investigation that stretched across 5 states. The man who ordered Emily's abduction, the man who controlled the entire trafficking network, was finally being arrested, but before they could reach him, he vanished. And the last place he was seen was 2 miles from Emily's apartment. When the past comes knocking, the FBI saying that man vanished didn't just scare us. It rewired how we lived. Overnight, Emily's apartment turned into a mini fortress. Extra cameras, motion lights, panic buttons, safe routes, code words. A federal agent posted across the street in an unmarked SUV that pretended to be just another neighbor. Pretended real hard. Emily joked at first, called her celebrity era. But I saw what it really did to her. It brought the cage back. She stopped sleeping, slept in the clothes she planned to run in, shoes by the bed, windows checked 3 times before she lay down. If a car idled too long outside, she flinched. One night, she called me at 2 a.m. Dad, what if he remembers me? I didn't lie. I think that's exactly why he ran. Silence on the line. Then she whispered, then he might come back for me. 3 days later, it happened. Emily was leaving a late therapy session. The driveway lights flickered. The agent across the street was talking to someone inside his vehicle. She never saw the man until he was right there, hand on her arm. She screamed. The agent drew his weapon so fast it was blurry. The man bolted. They found a drop phone. Burner. Wiped clean. But Emily was shaking so hard she couldn't stand. It was the first time in 30 years someone tried to claim her again, and they failed. That night she finally cracked. Not from fear, but from rage. I'm done running, she said, pacing my living room like a storm. They stole my childhood, my face, my name. I'm not letting them steal the rest too. The FBI didn't love that energy, but they used it. Emily agreed to help bait him. Not publicly. Quietly. Through patterns only traffickers would recognize. A control vulnerability. It was dangerous, calculated, and terrifying. I hated every second of it. Weeks passed. No movement. Then one afternoon, the FBI tracked activity on the burner phone. Location hit. Abandoned warehouse district. South end of Seattle. Emily stared at the map and said something that chilled me to the bone. That's where they kept me the longest. The arrest went down at 3:18 a.m. No shots fired. No chase. Just a quiet, precise takedown of a man who thought he was untouchable. 30 years of horror ended in handcuffs. Emily watched the footage later, with no expression. When it ended, she simply said, "Good." The trial took a year. A brutal year. Testimonies. Survivors. Records. Evidence that felt endless. Emily took the stand on the 4th day. She wore a blue sweater Sarah picked out. Hands shaking. Voice steady. The courtroom went dead silent when she spoke. She didn't cry. She didn't break. She owned her past instead of letting it own her. The man was convicted. multiple life sentences, no parole, ever. We thought the nightmare was finally over. We were wrong. Because trauma doesn't end when the villain goes to jail. Sometimes that's when it starts talking the loudest. Emily spiraled hard after the trial. Flashbacks, night terrors, isolation. One night, she vanished for 12 hours. No phone, no cameras, no warning. I thought I lost her a second time. They found her at dawn, at the old bus stop, the very place it all started. She was sitting on the curb like a 16-year-old waiting to be rescued. That broke me in ways I can't explain. After that, Emily changed her tactic. Instead of running from her story, she leaned into it, started speaking at survivor groups, then colleges, then conferences. She took her nightmare and turned it into a weapon against the darkness that created it. Every time she spoke, she saved someone else. And slowly, she saved herself. 3 years passed. Emily got certified as a trauma counselor, moved into her own home, built a life that wasn't borrowed anymore. A letter arrived at Emily's house with no return address. Inside was a single photograph, black and white, from the 90s. It showed 2 teenage girls in a room with blue shutters. One of them was Emily, and the other one was still missing. The girl in the photograph. The photo changed everything. Emily stared at it for a long time without speaking. Black and white, grainy, old. The blue shutters in the background were unmistakable. I remember that room, she said finally. That was the second house. Her hand started shaking. The girl with me, her name was Lily, or at least that's what they called her. The FBI ran facial recognition within hours. No match, meaning one thing only: Lily was missing. Still, the letter that came with the photo changed things even more. 3 short lines. No signature. She survived. The other one deserves the same. You have 90 days. Don't waste them. It wasn't a threat. It was a challenge. Emily didn't hesitate. She postponed public speaking, postponed work, cleared her calendar like she was going to war. I didn't survive just for me, she said. I survived for her too. The FBI reopened collapsed cold cases across 5 states. Same patterns, same age group, same transport windows. One name kept popping up: Lillian Brooks. Disappeared in 1998, age 15. Last seen leaving a skating rink in Spokane. Emily saw her school photo and broke down instantly. That's her. That's Lily. 3 months passed like a pressure cooker. Then a hit came in from Arizona. A woman working at a rural diner had been using stolen identity papers for over 20 years. Brown hair, limp in her left leg, would flinch when men raised their voices. Emily saw the photo and whispered, "That's not Lily anymore, but that's definitely her." The rescue happened quietly, just like Emily had. No news vans, no press, no chaos, just handcuffs on the man who'd kept her hidden, and a woman in her 40s who didn't trust mirrors yet. When Emily met Lily again, neither of them spoke. They just held each other and cried like 2 girls who never got to finish being kids. Lily had thought Emily died. Emily had thought Lily did. They both survived. Barely. Lily's parents never stopped searching. Never moved. Never changed phones. When Lily walked into their house again after 27 years, her father collapsed. Her mother screamed. And their clock started ticking forward again after being frozen since 1998. Emily testified again. Another trial. Another conviction. Another monster erased from the board. But this time, Emily was different. Stronger. Clearer. She wasn't testifying as prey anymore. She was testifying as a hunter. 2 years later, Emily and Lily stood on a stage together in front of a packed auditorium. 2 survivors. 2 timelines reunited. 2 lives stolen and rebuilt. Lily said just one sentence into the microphone. She found me when the world gave up. Emily squeezed her hand and added, "And now neither of us are ever getting lost again." I watched from the front row. Proud doesn't even begin to cover it. But just when we thought the story was truly finished, another letter arrived. Different handwriting, different state, different name, same words. I think I was one of them too. The trafficking network Emily helped expose wasn't just bigger than anyone imagined. It was still alive in the shadows. And now, more survivors were beginning to wake up. The ones who woke up. The letters didn't stop after that first one. They came from everywhere. Different states, different handwriting, different time periods. But nearly all of them said the same thing in some broken way. Your story sounds like mine. Some were unsure. Some were angry. Some were terrified. Some weren't even sure if what happened to them was real or just something their brain made up to survive. Emily read every single one. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she went silent for hours. Sometimes she called me just to sit on the phone and breathe. Because when trauma wakes up, it wakes up loud. The FBI created a special survivor task group using Emily and Lily's cases as a blueprint. Patterns emerged that nobody saw before. Routes, safe houses, financial pipelines. What we once thought was one ring was actually a network, decades deep, hundreds of victims. And now, thanks to Emily speaking, hundreds of survivors realizing they weren't crazy. They had been stolen. Emily stopped calling herself a survivor. She started calling herself a locator. She helped law enforcement decode behavior patterns. She trained trauma counselors. She taught agents how memory hides and how it comes back. But the most powerful work she did, she listened, sometimes for hours, sometimes in total silence. Because for people who were forced to forget who they were, being believed was the beginning of becoming human again. 5 years after Emily came home, we held a gathering. No media, no cameras, no headlines, just survivors and their families in a quiet mountain retreat. Some had found their names again. Some hadn't yet. Some never would. But they all stood together in one place. Alive. Emily opened the night by saying, "They took years from us. They don't get the rest." No one clapped. They didn't need to. Lily stood beside her now, stronger, laughing more, learning how to live instead of hide. She had a job, friends, dreams, things that used to feel illegal to want. They weren't victims anymore. They were anchors. That night, I sat on the porch alone, listening to the wind in the trees, thinking about the bus stop, the grave, the photo, the trial, the letters. 30 years ago, I buried my daughter. 5 years ago, she walked back into my life. And now the world felt bigger again, scary again, hopeful again, all at once. Emily joined me outside. "Dad," she said, "do you regret answering that phone call?" I laughed softly. "Kid, that call brought my whole world back." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I used to think surviving was an accident," she said. "Now I think it was an assignment." I didn't have an answer for that. I just held her. Sarah came out next and wrapped us both in a hug. For the first time since 1994, we were a complete family again. Not the same, but real. A year later, Emily and Lily founded a permanent survivor network. Shelters, legal aid, trauma therapy, identity restoration. Not just rescue, rebuilding. Because rescue is a moment, healing is a lifetime. And me? I got my ordinary days back. Morning coffee, bad knees, Sunday pancakes that still burn. Only now, sometimes Emily is in the kitchen with Sarah laughing. Sometimes Lily joins us. Sometimes survivors visit who just needed to see that life doesn't end where evil begins. I used to measure life by what we lost. Now I measure it by what came back. Emily didn't return as the girl we lost. She came back as the woman the world needed. And because she spoke, thousands more remembered who they were and came home to.